What's going on, ladies, tramps, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we are back talking about deck techs. I am very sorry for missing Friday's video, but I was a bit under the weather, wasn't feeling so well, but I am back kicking and in action, ready to go, ready to talk about some new deck lists. And as always, when it comes to this time in the meta, we've had enough card reveals that I think it's time to start talking about deck lists for set 9. This one is particularly interesting and a deck list I'm excited to talk about on the cusp of things rotating, because it requires 0 new cards. So if you're somebody who's got the old cards, you don't want to have to jump into getting the new cards right away. This is a deck that you can play and be competitive without buying a single new card from Fabled. Every single card in here is either going to be cards that are confirmed to reprint or cards that are from the last 4 sets. On the topic of reprints, I'm very excited to say that out of my 18 predictions so far, there are still a few cards to get announced as of the recording of this video. I have gotten 6 correct, 7 if you include my prediction of Enchanted Hades, which I gotta say, out of 18 predictions for 816 potential options, not including Enchanteds, the chances of even getting 1 prediction correct are like 2%. So it's like astronomical to get 6 correct. I'm super surprised, really excited to say that I got that many predictions correct. There's a lot of cards that are coming back that I'm excited about. Some of the cards in the prediction video were definitely Hail Marys that I did not expect to be correct about at all, and it turned out I wasn't. But if you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. We'll throw a link on the screen. As always, before we jump into the video, we got to give a big shout out to the Patreons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. Cannot do any of this without you guys. As you know, we just had a big giveaway and we'll have another one coming down the line. So if you haven't subscribed, now is a great time to do so. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into talking about today's deck list, Ruby Emerald Actions. Now, I will mention this deck list could be upgraded with things like the new Max Goof and Powerline and things like that. You could definitely be playing those cards. That is an option. Maybe it would make the deck better, maybe not. But if you want to make those tweaks, if you're getting the new cards and you want to make those kind of changes, I think they could be good for the deck. I think particularly the 2-cost, I believe it's a 2-cost Singer 4 Powerline, if I'm not mistaken, could be really, really good for this deck. Shift Line obviously is great for that card, so you might as well play the Shift Line at that point. But that being said, you don't need it. We're doing lots of cool stuff with this deck without it, so stick around and see what we're talking about. But the first card in the 1-cost slot is Cursed Merfolk Ursula's Handiwork, a 1-cost inkable 0/1 stat line questing for 2. Whenever your opponent challenges him, which is only ever going to be once, unless they're challenging with a 0 strength character, which is wildly unlikely, they're going to be going ahead and discarding a card. So it's a great way to get that discard engine going and develop a little card advantage. Your other 1-cost character, a card you guys know I personally love, is going to be Fred, Mascot by Day, a 1-cost inkable 1/1 stat line questing for 1, with whenever this character is challenged, gain 2 lore. So both these characters are definitely going to be taking advantage of being challenged into. Obviously there is some direct removal that will be coming back around, like Fire the Cannons, but without Let the Storm Rage on and that Singer Cinderella in the mix, it is a lot harder to deal with these characters. So they're going to have a lot higher potential of getting challenged into, particularly with some of the other cards we're playing in this deck. This is not so much for your 1-cost slot characters, but this is a great way to surprise your opponent with a little bit of extra strength while replacing it by drawing an additional card and improvise a 1-cost inkable action. You're going to give a character +1 strength and draw a card. Why not? You know, it's good sometimes. Like, there's some instances where your opponent's like, oh, well, he's 1 strength away from being able to get a favorable challenge on this character. Next thing you know, you improvise, you replace the card, and you get that favorable challenge your opponent didn't expect. Speaking of putting a damage on those opposing characters, we are on 3 Go-Go Tamako, a 2-cost inkable 2/2 stat line questing for 1 with Evasive. Evasive, of course, is going to be huge in the new meta. There are going to be a ton of evasive characters, which is going to make Go-Go Tamako all that much more relevant. She can also sing a couple of the songs in this deck, which is not always the case for 2-drops, and maybe where you want to be since she does only quest for 1. And when you play this character, you may pay 2 additional ink to gain lore equal to the damage on chosen opposing character. So if you have an opposing character with 2, 3, 4 damage on him, you can gain a crazy burst of lore and potentially even close out games that way. And she's inkable. Real good card. We're going to be talking about a couple other great inkable ladies in the next 2/2 slots as well. And the first one is going to be Queen of Hearts Losing Her Temper, a 2-cost inkable 1/4 stat line questing for 1. With while this character has damage, she gets +3 strength, making her a 4/4 stat line, like a reverse Lawrence that only costs 2. Somehow this card has gotten a bit overlooked. It has seen some fringe play, but it's a card that I think is going to have a lot of potential going into this new meta. Next Next up, our last lady in the 2-cost slot, we have 4 Ursula Deceiver, a 2-cost inkable 1/3 stat line questing for 1, with when you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. Obviously, songs are going to be majorly relevant. There's a ton of songs coming back. Singer is a huge focus of the new set that's coming out, and with some of those high-cost songs that are going to be really good, Singer and Sing Together are going to be super necessary. So ripping those songs out of their hands and preventing your opponents from developing that overbearing strategy is going to be huge, and Ursula Deceiver, especially in the early days of this new meta, is, in my opinion, going to be one of the best cards that you can play. Next up, still in the 2-cost slot, we have 4 Sudden Chill, another confirmed reprint, a card that I did predict, and I am excited to say I was correct about. I actually got all of my Emerald predictions correctly with Sudden Chill, Ursula, and Curse Merfolk. I'm not sure how that worked out that way. Really nailed it for Emerald. But it is a 2-cost inkable action song, so you can sing it with any of those 2-cost characters we were talking about, and your opponent is going to just straight up discard a card. So it's another hand disruption, another way to get additional card advantage. When you're not drawing cards, discarding your opponent's cards can be just as good. Last card in the 2-cost slot, we're on 3 Heffalumps and Woozles, a 2-cost inkable action song. Chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn, and you're going to draw a card. So shutting down a potential quest where your opponent may have enough lore to win the game, and pushing it back around to where now they're on a turn where maybe they have to challenge into your characters because next turn you could win. Heffalumps and Woozles can literally change the tide of a game, and it replaces itself, and it's singable. And moving to the 3-cost slot, we're on 3 Prince Philip Royal Explorer, a 3-cost inkable 3/2 stat line questing for 2 with Ward. I think this is a card that's going to scare a lot of people into challenging it or trying to do something to get it off the board immediately, because they're going to be worried about that shift line with that Prince Philip rotating back in with the reprint. For this deck, we are more aggro oriented, so we aren't playing the shift line for Philip. We aren't playing the Queen of Hearts shift line to put damage on characters. So the big Prince Philip isn't as good as he could be in other versions of this color combination. This Philip is still great because he has Ward, and there's not a lot that your opponent's going to be able to do about that. Under the Sea is not going to clear him with the 3 front, so he is potentially going to be coming down and at the very least questing for 2 for you and then taking a challenge. And on that theme, in the 3-cost slot of taking a challenge for you, we have 3 Louis Endearing Alligator, a 3-cost inkable 4/3 stat line questing for 1. The only other time we've really seen a stat line like that is on Mim Fox, which of course did have a drawback ability, which in a way so does Louis. He's got the benefit and the drawback. He is going to enter play exerted, so he's going to be at risk of getting challenged immediately. However, he's going to give chosen opposing character Reckless. This can be super funny, especially against aggro decks that aren't going to be able to clear him, because you could potentially put them in a position where their options for challenging into are going to be Curse Merfolk, Fred, or Louis, so they can take a challenge, lose their guy to Louis, and Louis will stay alive, or they can challenge one of your other guys and trigger their abilities, which is always super funny. Moving over to the 4-cost slot, and a card that we saw really perform well in the days of yore for discard is Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman, a 4-cost inkable 2/5 stat line questing for 2, which with Brawl rotating out, I think is really potentially a lot better than it used to be. It's outside of that Sisu. Obviously, Sapphire Coil makes everything difficult, but Donald Duck can be really funny. At the start of your turn, each player may draw a card, so your opponent gets to choose if they want to draw a card. Even if they don't draw a card, you still get to. And if you're in a position where you have a decent amount of discard options in your hand, your opponent's hand is already fairly run through, Donald Duck can be pretty good because you're just going to draw a card and then force your opponent to discard the card that they drew. It was actually really good with Prince John, because your opponent really didn't want to draw, because if you did have the discard to force them to discard, you got to draw an additional card because of Prince John. Obviously Prince John's rotated out, but Donald Duck can still be really good, and I said it once and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but he is inkable when he's not good. As far as cards that aren't inkable when they're not good, our other card in the 4-cost slot is going to be 3 Robin Hood Sharpshooter, a 4-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line questing for 2, with whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an action card with cost 6 or less and play it for free. Put the rest into your discard. So he may only ever get to trigger that once, but if you end up hitting one of those 6 or even 4 cost actions, it can be really good. If you're going to exert this Robin Hood down and he is at risk and you hit like You're Welcome off your top deck, you can cycle him back into your deck to go ahead and draw 2 additional cards, which even that can be really good. So Robin Hood Sharpshooter, really funny, and being able to play the action for free is great with some of the other cards that we're playing. Another action in the 4-cost slot, we're on 4 You're Welcome, a 4-cost inkable action song. And this is the one I was just talking about when I was talking about Robin Hood. Shuffle chosen character, item, or location into their player's deck, so always worth noting it can hit items and locations when it comes to what your opponent may have down, and that player is going to draw 2 cards. So if you're hitting your opponent's stuff, they're going to draw 2 cards. If you're hitting your own stuff, you're going to draw 2 cards. If you're forcing them to draw and you have discard, you could balance that out anyway, but a lot of times you're looking for the additional card draws, so you are potentially going to be looking to cycle back in your own characters to your deck to avoid them getting challenged into. Next up, we have 3 Be King Undisputed, a 4-cost uninkable action song. Each opponent chooses and banishes one of their characters, so they are going to get to choose, but if you've been able to thin out their field a little bit, you can potentially get them in a position where they only have 1 character out, and then Be King all of a sudden becomes very, very good. Next up, a card you guys know I love. It's a card that took me to top 8 and set champs, is Lilo, Causing an Uproar. I think this card's absolutely fantastic in the deck builds that I've built around it. It is a 5-cost inkable 4/4 stat line questing for 2, but the ability that really makes it excellent, well, really both of the abilities are what make it excellent, because it's a crazy combination of abilities. During your turn, if you played 3 or more actions, you can play her for free. That is not limited to a single Lilo, so you could play 2 or 3 Lilos for free. And when you play this character, ready chosen character, they can't quest for the rest of the turn. They can, however, challenge again, and just being able to ready a character even if you don't want to challenge again to prevent them from being able to be challenged into is huge, particularly in this meta where we're going to be seeing less direct removal than ever. Next up, in the 6-cost slot, I'm sure you guys saw this coming considering how the deck is shaping up, we have 3 Maui Half Shark. Yes, I know these are incredibly expensive. Yes, you could hypothetically increase the count of Lilo, the count of Robin Hood, and an additional action, and skip the Maui Shark entirely. It is definitely a late game play, particularly in this deck where you're not ink ramping. So if you don't have the Maui Sharks, you don't want to spend the $50 on the Maui Sharks, don't play the Maui Sharks. You know, go ahead and cut them, run another Lilo, another Robin Hood, and something else. And he is a 6-cost inkable 7/5 stat line with evasive, questing for 1 with evasive, and whenever this character challenges another character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand, and when you play an action card, gain 1 lore. So he is going to potentially let you be gaining some free lore, which is always wonderful. Speaking of gaining free lore and cards that work not only super well with Maui, but incredibly well with Robin Hood since he has actions up to cost 6, we have 4 Pirate's Life, a confirmed reprint, is a 6-cost inkable action song. One of our only cards in this deck list. We have 2 cards in this deck list, one of the only ones with Sing Together. 6, great to see this mechanic coming back. I've been talking about this since they made one set that had Sing Together cards and then never did it again. Each opponent loses 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. Obviously, if you have a Maui Shark down, you're gaining an additional lore from Maui Shark, so you're looking at gaining 3, which can be incredibly oppressive to your opponent, especially if they're playing aggro and you've cleared their field up pretty good. When you start reducing the amount of lore that they have, you can really put them in a position where they just can't get ahead of the 8 ball. And our last 2 cards, we have one in the 8-cost slot and one in the 9-cost slot, believe it or not, in Ruby Emerald of all places. But we have 2 Under the Sea, an 8-cost uninkable action song. Obviously Robin Hood isn't going to play this, but this is definitely a great uh-oh button in those big action heavy decks. There's also an argument for playing those power lines if you guys do get them and you want to go to a higher count of Under the Sea. It could be really good. This is the only real board wipe in the game right now from what we've seen. It is a Sing Together 8, so you don't necessarily need a big character to sing it. You could have a few smaller characters on the board and put all opposing characters with 2 strength or less on the bottom of their player's deck in any order. So it's only going to be opposing characters. It's not going to hit your side of the board, which makes it really super good. There are definitely some high strength characters out there now that Under the Sea is not going to affect, which is why we're only playing 2. And in the final slot, we have 2 Robin Hood Timely Contestant, a 9-cost uninkable 6/6 stat line questing for 4. Great way to sing every song in the deck. Obviously, you're never going to get to 9 ink with Ruby Emerald, so his ability is hugely relevant. For each 1 damage on opposing characters, you pay 1 less to play this character. Keep in mind, that's for each damage, not each damaged character. So if there's a character with 2 or 3 damage on it, it is going to be, that single character is going to be reducing Robin Hood's ink cost by that much, which is crazy. And he does have wards, so when he comes down, your opponent is really not going to be able to do anything about him. Under the Sea is not going to hit him. He's not going to be targetable by those sapphire coils. So at the very least, he should be getting that opportunity to challenge for 6 or quest for 4, whatever is the most relevant at the time, probably questing with the way that this deck is designed. And then your opponent gets the opportunity to challenge into him. Maybe they have something that they can challenge in favorably with, like a Maui Shark, but there are not a ton of options that are going to challenge for 6 in this game. There are certainly some, and there's some that challenge for more than 6, but they're few and far between. Obviously, Blarple is problematic with those monstros, but Robin Hood is fantastic. But that is the deck list. As always, let me know what are your thoughts on this in the comments below. Do you think Ruby Emerald has any potential in the new meta? Would you rather just get the new cards and play a build with Max, Goof, and Powerline? Or do you think this build's good as it is and you'll just run it with these 60? Are you in a rush to buy Fabled as soon as it comes out? Or are you looking to build decks that aren't necessarily taking advantage of the new cards while they are potentially at quite a premium, considering there's only going to be 33 new cards coming from packs and people are going to be getting a lot of stuff they don't necessarily need? What are your thoughts on the amount of reprints in the new set? I always love to hear what you guys are thinking about the game. If you're enjoying it, what you may be frustrated with, definitely let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. And with that being said, when you see those toys, video games, and Robin Hoods playing actions for free off the top deck off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage.